Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Roaster Warm Sessions podcast. Just checking over to make sure I'm recording
levels
and make sure the levels are there. It's never a fun time. The amount of times where you just like record something, you forget to hit record, something's not sounding right. I don't know. It's a nightmare. Anyways, welcome to the Coffee Roaster Warm Sessions podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Kotrovsky, and I'm here with Sergey Kotrovsky.
That's
and,
it, dude.
Every episode we start off with pouring some batchy. So let's just get into it.
Let's get into it.
Dude, Thanksgiving is next week, less than a week away from this podcast airing, which...
We have to record a podcast on Thanksgiving night.
What's up?
Don't we have to record a podcast on Thanksgiving night?
I don't know.
It's Thursday. We usually record the podcast on Thursday.
That's true. I thought it was, I don't know. I thought it was like a tradition that I forgot.
No.
We do a Thanksgiving roast.
We used to do a Thanksgiving roast.
It's not like it's a roast. It's a roast, but not like a turkey roast. It's like it's like a bean roast.
I'm trying to think creative and get people like something special. Like an unlabeled coffee, you can throw in a dark roast. You can throw in a medium roast.
No.
I would do something like that. I think it would. I don't know. I like throwing people off. I like throwing people for a loop. They'd be like, "Ooh, this is a surprise."
Serge, what are you tasting in this coffee?
Oh man, acidity. Some nice acidity. It kind of lacks clarity, just a bit.
Dude, I don't know what you're on, but this definitely doesn't lack clarity. Are you kidding me?
I think my palate is like just tainted by drinking too much dark roast. I feel like every year there's this rotation that we talk about on the podcast where I kind of start talking about dark roast. Like I feel like every year there was one during COVID
Serge
lockdowns.
has officially become a dark roast drinker. I
do throw in a dark roast for a rotation, but I don't go buy it. Like I just like secretly.
He goes in and looks
on my
for
roast days.
No, I secretly Bay black bag at Whole Foods.
No, dude, I secretly.
This is a true espresso roast. This will rip on my perfect puck prep.
Dude. Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. That's the question. Is like, do you puck prep dark roast different than light roast?
No.
Maybe.
No, this actually tastes, I think this tastes really nice. There's actually a lot of clarity, I think, on this.
Really?
Like on the front, I'm getting a lot of maybe a milk chocolate mixed in with some honey.
Yeah.
Really, it's like it's clear, it's vibrant, it's like straight up in your face. Like that's the bulk of the flavor.
Yeah.
And then there's like that. On the back end, you have that apple that just comes through. That's like crisp apple, maybe a little bit of grape, white grape, but mostly probably apple. I'm getting so like honey, milk chocolate, apple is like all over this coffee.
Dude, speaking of that, you know that meme has been floating around where the cat with the dial-in espresso or dial. Oh my gosh, dude! Can I? People know. People are listening. Know.
This is a new segment on the podcast where we feature our favorite coffee meme.
Coffee meme.
This is a new segment.
I've got this meme sent to me like from like multiple people, like a lot of people, and I'm like, should I be happy that like people thought of me? This one. It's the cat.
Can you send that to me so I can play it, cue it in the? I'm gonna cue.
Yeah,
it in
you're
the
gonna
podcast.
cue it in the pod, please. Yeah, I'll send it to you right now.
What does
it says me when the barista said, it's a face of a cat, just like kind of like going like licking its like, just kind of munching, and it says me when the barista said that in coffee I would feel roasted pecans, plum, milk chocolate with grapefruit notes. It's hilarious. I mean, people, It's hard to.
I need to see it. You
You
need to see it. If you're listening on Spotify, you guys will see it.
Yeah,
It's right on the screen.
I'm sending it to you right
or
now.
on YouTube.
There it is. The funny thing is, like, oh, dude, a lot of our friends liked it. Maxwell Mooney liked it. It must be good.
Shout out to Max, dude.
Dude,
If
Akash liked it, dude. My guy.
Wow, this is lovely. This is lovely.
No, that's what I feel like. You're calling us flavor notes, and I feel like I'm the cat. Or just going. Anyway,
it's just I don't know. That's what I'm getting. I'm digging this. It's probably it's great. It's great. I have no complaints.
I'm
it's
not
just a solid.
That's good. There's
solid
that candied flavor
daily.
as it cools. Do you kind of taste it? It's almost like syrupy, like candied syrupy, like
I don't know. Can you pour me some more?
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Not bad.
I don't know if I'd say candy, but yeah, no, I don't. I honestly I don't think it's that big of a deal, but so yeah, I mean, I know we've mentioned on the podcast how much home coffee bar setups are getting a little very wild, and people are just that whole just era and the genre or the hobby, the theme is getting a lot of traction, and so, but with that, with I know we talk about like the balance of like gear versus technique. Gear versus technique. It's like you can have the best gear in the world, no technique, and then you can have really great technique, and like Lance who freaking steams milk on a Bambino and pours something freaking unreal, and then you have people who are like, oh, I have the Bambino, I can't pour latte art. It's like if Lance could do it, you could do it, so as long as you just get there. And so one of the most important things of pulling espresso is puck prep. And so that's kind of like a little bit of what we want to dive into this podcast and kind of go through your puck prep and how that differs from doing puck prep at the cafe versus puck prep at home. And I know right now do you still use the flare?
Use the flare almost every day.
Cool.
More than it. like a few times a day. Cool. Yeah.
And then I mean before you were using the dual boiler pretty regularly. I was gonna say, didn't you have that one from the latte art throwdown? But you sold that one.
I sold that one. Yeah.
So, but yeah, what do you give me a little rundown? What comes to mind first when you think about puck prep?
Yeah.
Is it really that big of a deal? Is it? Do we have to get super nitty picky about it, or or what?
I think the main thing that comes to my mind, like when we talk about puck prep, is the questions I get from other people that in person reach out to me and like, oh, do you do that? Like, do you massage your coffee with needles? And
of course.
I love that. It makes me chuckle every single time.
Yeah, it does. Dude, it does.
It's like beef, dude. I like Wagyu beef, like massaged beef or non-massaged beef, or massaged coffee or non-massaged coffee. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that's what comes to my mind. That makes me chuckle. And then when I think about it deeper, I think there's the phenomenon on Instagram, on TikTok, with people like Tanner, with a lot of those coffee influencers who made that idea of like, what's it called? The WDT popular. And whether people know the impact of it or not, they know that it exists. Right. I think most people do, just because of, I think I would predominantly, and from my opinion, give Tanner the main props on that, making it like famous. I would say Tanner is the guy who made it big because of people watching it on TikTok. The amount of times people send me a Tanner Colson
I've had that
video is shocking. Like, dude, have you seen this? And I'm like, oh yes, I know the guy. He's a good guy. Like, I've seen this. But I think that's what, when it comes to like puck prep, that's one of the major things that comes to my mind. The second one is, do you remember back in the day when people would do the kind of northeast, southwest, whatever distribution method? That was also a big one, like for me, because A lot of the first cafe I worked in had no distribution tools at all.
Yes.
And it was not the best grinder. It was one of those doser grinders.
Right.
You know,
Right. What is
and
the
you're
Maz
dosing.
or Jolly or whatever? Or
Oh no, it was way less than that. It was like one of the older Simonelli's grinders.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you would like kind of dose up, and then in order to level out the bed so you could actually tamp, not for distribution, but just to get rid of some coffee.
Right.
You would go like, northwest, southeast, whatever that method is called, and then level it up and tamp really quick. And there's two things that I got to say, and we can dive into this deeper. I don't think, there's a caveat, it's a hot take. I don't think one way is better than the other. I think a lot of it is circumstantial. But there's a lot to that comment, because we have to unpack then why does puck prep matter, and why do sometimes we take more time on puck prep and sometimes it doesn't.
So why do you think it matters? And I do think also, that's a good point, that it's a little circumstantial. And I mean, I'll bring up which many people probably listening to this podcast have seen the crazy video with Lance pretty much shaking up, the facts behind WDTing and instead of doing the shaking method. But we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, you need to tell me about that, because I haven't watched that.
So you said we need to dig into kind of like, is it important? Well, is it important, and why?
Yes, you can't pull espresso without puck prep. So you're gonna have to do it no matter what, because you need to get coffee into your portafilter. So that's the obvious, right? So the question is, how much puck prep are you required to do? Well, that's not an easy answer, because we have to question your grinder situation there. Because if you have a very, very bad grinder that's clumping a lot of coffee, one, you should probably get a better grinder, but two, you can get around it by doing more puck prep, right? Because my grinder at home is good. I'm not gonna.
What are you using?
I was gonna say, I don't really want to say it, but the Vario W Plus. It's a good grinder, right?
It's a great grinder.
It is, but it does clump. It does. And my puck prep is kind of right now is not super excessive, because I don't have all the tools. Speaking of that, something on my Christmas list, I was just talking to Maddie about, like, I want a doser cup, like, because I want to shake my espresso.
Nice.
And then I also want the Weber thing. I was talking to Tanner about it the other day. What's the Weber thing? The thing that looks like a Rolex watch.
The distribution tool.
That one thing.
The Moonraker.
The Moonraker.
Yeah,
that's it.
Moonraker.
I really want a Moonraker.
Wild.
I really, because I have the Unibasket, so I really want a Moonraker really, really bad. That's like my goal. Maybe I'll buy it if I make enough money this month.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things that I really want. And the reason is one, I'm just using a cheaper Normcore distribution things. My needles are kind of bent up and messed up.
Okay.
And it still helps, because I'm putting a paper filter inside my Unibasket, and then I'm putting the coffee with the funnel. That's another thing for coffee. I think funnels, like those funnels are important, crucial. I don't think I can do it without a funnel.
Yeah.
Because my grinder is dosing just into a little cup container thing, Right. So I put it into a funnel, through the funnel, and then I distribute with the whole needle thing, the Normcore thing, WDT tool. And it's fine. It gets the job done. It's not the best, for sure. It's not. I still get decent amount of channeling even on the flare. And that's the other option, is because I'm pulling espresso on the flare, I can mitigate some channeling by manually controlling the pressure. And again, that's not a like flat out rule there. You can mitigate a little bit the flow. You can mitigate the flow rate. Therefore, you can reduce some channeling. Right. And that is exactly why we do puck prep, is to reduce channeling. And a good grinder will help with that. And even with a good grinder, coffee that's distributed in your basket how it's laid out, how even the grinder is grinding. What I love I feel like I'm all over the place because there's so many things my mind is going to, but even the Malconing 65s or 65s, 85s, those dope grinders, even they have the spouts that are adjustable, because when coffee is coming out of the grinder, if it lands off to the side and you have to move it, that already can cause a little bit of a error in puck prep. So you want the coffee to lay very, very flat to reduce channeling. That is the whole purpose and core for puck prep. And when it comes for me at home, the WDT tool is a must.
So why is it why is it important? Puck prep is needed because you need to get espresso.
Yeah.
And you need to prepare your puck for
Yeah.
the water to go through the puck. What happens if you do bad puck prep over really, really excellent, precise puck prep? What's the difference?
Yeah.
And is it that big of a difference?
Channeling. Yeah. That's it. And depends on who you talk to and who's listening to those podcasts. Like, channeling will make or break your espresso, your shot of espresso. And the way channeling works, very, very simple, is when water is moving through your puck in espresso, it's looking for the path of least resistance. So even if you have a good grinder, even if you do WDT, water's looking for how can it move through the puck the easiest way. So the way you decrease the amount of channeling is you make sure that coffee is distributed evenly throughout your puck. So then when you tamp, and that's another thing, is like tamping. I see one of the major mistakes in like post puck prep, or I would still consider tamping as puck prep, is when you're some people press down and they'll re-enter and try to tamp on top of their tamp. That's another reason why I don't like those distribution tools, is because it's already adding pressure. It might not add full-blown pressure to the amount of tamp, but it's adding a little bit of pressure, and then you're adding more pressure. The reason that's bad is what you could do is you won't visibly see a hairline fracture in your puck, but it'll actually fracture your puck on the bottom. And then that'll create just enough softness and give in the puck. So when the water is moving, it'll find that little crevice and move more water through that channel.
Lance says the double press is not a bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
which is surprising.
That is
surprising.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I haven't done enough research into it, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
But it's just another take. But
yeah,
it's worth also just experimenting
totally.
and trying to figure out what's actually tasting, better or worse. But I think channeling is like, a big part of creating good puck prep, but it's also going to, in layman terms, it's like your coffee's going to taste much more well-rounded, much more sweeter. You're going to get a better extraction. It's just going to have a much pleasing taste. Channeling also creates avenues for bitter compounds to come through. So you're not going to get as bitter of a flavor as well. Yeah. So all those little things, channeling may seem like, is it that big of a deal? And, but at the end of the day, it's like, to get a shot of espresso that's going to taste really nice, pleasant, enjoyable, not bitter, not sour, evenly, just extracted. Yeah. That's why that's the behind all these, this terminology is really just like, we want good tasting coffee, and espresso is pretty picky. And so you're just trying to limit as many of the mistakes as possible. Yeah. And I also want to go back to, your comment about it depends on your setup. So, you mentioned like if your grinder is clumping, you're going to need to work on it a little bit more to get it to a decent spot. Like the E65, Malconing grinders or the E80s. I mean, the grind quality is so excellent. Yeah. You can almost negate a little bit of the puck prep. Yeah.
Or minimize, minimize the amount of steps you do in puck prep. Because my cafe puck prep is literally, I do 2 taps. Or 3 taps on the side of the portafilter. And then a 1 tap down. Yeah. Very intentional. Boom, boom, down.
Of course.
Tamp
of
straight
course.
down. That's it.
And what I meant by negate is like you don't necessarily have to WDT it. You don't have to do all those other things because the grinder is helping you actually doing that ahead of time. You still need to be precise about.
That's why even like the importance of what I was saying, that funnel, where the funnel is and how the funnel is dropping coffee into the portafilter basket. Also, that is puck prep. That's what I mean. Like you just positioning that funnel is you are thinking about puck prep when you're doing that, because dosing the coffee into your basket is going to tell you whether you need to do more things to level the coffee or less things.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm using the Baratza Forte.
Yeah.
It's causing some issues recently, so I might have to repair it soon, but it's standing strong. It crushes. Really underrated grinder, I think. But right now it's just like it's grinding into the basket bin. I transfer it. I bought it off Facebook Marketplace. The Weber catch bin. I don't even know what it's called.
The magnetic one?
It's the silver one it's off like the older keys, I think.
Oh, okay. It's a magnetic one where you go in the funnel. Yeah. Those are dope. So, I want one of those. Yeah.
Using one of those, and I've actually stopped WDTing at all.
Nice.
And that's mostly because after like Lance's video about, hey, when he shakes his espresso, and I guess it's mostly, I don't know if this is true, but specifically with the Weber shaker, which is not what I have. I have just the catch bin. But anyways, he said that it's getting you higher extraction yields than WDT.
Whoa.
And he's not really sure. And many people did the test after him, and they're all finding the same thing, that no WDTing is actually, but shaking gets a better extraction than WDTing, which is crazy.
Weird. Yeah.
But again, I'm sure there's a lot of things going on there.
You need to plug that video because I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And like a lot of my questions around that is he shaking like with the bin attached to the portafilter, or is he shaking separately and then transferring?
Yeah, that. Interesting,
because the transfer from the shaker into the portafilter is going to matter.
Yeah. But he just has that shaker that just goes on the portafilter. He just taps it and it comes down.
And then he pulls the thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so it's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't know if I'd be able to say like my espresso improved, but it's my workflow has changed a little bit. So now I just kind of put it into that keys thing. I kind of give it a nice shake. Yeah. Dose it in there. Sick. Boom, tamp. So it's kind of made it a little easier, kind of. Yeah. But yeah, I think a few things as we kind of, laying the plane here. What are some really small little maybe accessories outside of like the WDT tool that you think is like a small little gadget that makes your puck prep easier at home? What would you say?
Gosh, I mean, obviously the WDT one is like crucial. Small, to be honest, none of them are super cheap. One of the things that I would say I'm looking for is I'm just probably going to get the Kaya. We have one of those there on that one of those things that'll attach, because it's $40. It's not that expensive. And it's cheaper than getting the Weber one, which is similar concept, just different. But what I want to do is I literally want to grind from my grinder, transfer into that little thing, and then put it on my portafilter and shake it and then level it. That'll help. It usually does leave a little like ring around, which it will still quote unquote require some more puck prep. But I think that'll help a little bit to my setup. I think that would be probably the cheapest one outside of like this. Everything you're sharing about the Lance video is kind of new to me because I haven't watched it, so I'm really curious about that. But I think that that would be the smallest gadget. Everything else is big in my opinion, right? Moonraker is a big. The other distribution tool, the one that you kind of roll your hand.
The Barista Hustle one.
Yeah, the Barista Hustle one is also a big one. Like those are not small tools.
Right. I guess I just assumed that they were small, but now that I'm thinking about it,
they're massive. They're big in size. They're big in price.
Yeah, they're bigger in size and they're big in price actually for something that's just gonna, But I think I would having say some kind of RDT tool. WDT tool. Yeah. But speaking of RDT, actually, I think James Hoffman said that when you RDT on espresso, how your coffee comes out of your grinder actually changes, and how it actually helps your espresso. How it's not just about like, hey, it'll clean up your grind a little bit, but he actually, I think if I remember correctly, he mentions that it actually helps your extraction. Because of how the grounds stick to each other, the fines stick to each other.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's like a simple thing where it's like, oh, interesting. Like just having a small little spray bottle, very cheap, but it'll clean up your, the mess a little bit around your grinder, and I mean, might make it a little better. I don't know,
dude. I think the other thing is, I don't ever pull espresso without espresso filter paper. Do you?
I do all the time. I haven't really gotten into it. I think I would love to try some. Yeah. I know I have some paper filters, I think, at home. I just haven't really.
I only use paper filters. I don't know the last time at home I pulled a shot of espresso.
Do you cut them out or what?
No, I just buy them. The one Which for ones? 58 millimeters. Forgot. There's one of the brands that it's a little thicker. I like it. The reason I like it is because I'm using the Weber Unibasket, and the Unibasket just like drains.
Yes.
So it slows down the drain a little bit, and it makes pulling espresso slightly easier. Or I use the Weber papers. The Weber papers are my favorite for sure. They're just pricey. Majority of Weber stuff is pricey, but I like it. I love it. So it's like, I went through the Weber papers, and now I bought the other one, and I like it. I might go back to the Weber papers just because they do much better job than those. So I do that. The other thing I was going to mention, there was something else I was going to mention. I think that's a little thing that you could improve in your just espresso in general, is using the papers. So I'm curious to what you would do. But there was something about Lance that you said that I found very interesting. I feel I am also going back to maybe it's my laziness at home and pulling espresso, but I don't single dose anymore. Do you single dose all of your espresso?
There was a time when I didn't. There was a time when I didn't, and now I'm back to single dosing because I just don't have that much volume in coffee. So if I do, it's like I have like 50, 60 grams of a coffee, and that's like 3 shots of espresso. So I need to dial it in, not waste excess amount. But then the hopper's not going to benefit me if I just put the whole thing in there. So I'm just like single dosing. I can then adjust according to time, and then adjust my grind size, throw it in. The difficulty is like if you use the hopper, actually your grind quality and your extraction changes based on how much coffee you have in your hopper. At least that's something I've noticed. Like on the E65s when we're pulling espresso, when it's on the last bit at the bottom, my numbers start going. And so it's like, unless you have a full bag, and if you do have a full bag and you're predominantly drinking espresso, I don't actually see a bad reason why you wouldn't use a hopper. It just doesn't make sense. But if you're, of course, if you just have a little bit or you just want a shot, then so
makes sense. And the other thing I was gonna say is, like, I think for Christmas I'm gonna try to buy the little mirror for the flare.
Nice.
I really want it. Like,
that's great.
I never get to see that stream. You want that single stream, dude. I might start shooting like videos of, if I get all of these things, if I get a Moonraker, if I get a mirror, and I get a dosing cup, I'm gonna start shooting like
hold Sergi accountable. Tell him, where's my content?
I'm gonna start shooting videos, dude. I also need to get a small rig for shooting latte art, dude. I feel like every single video post I make, I'm like talking about like how I hate my camera setup and I don't do anything about it. And I'm like, dude, are people tired of reading my complaints? Like, just freaking change it up. and I don't do anything about it. But I found Small Rig has this is such a wild tangent, but Small Rig has this little clamp with like 2 arms and the cell phone holder for like $30.
Nice.
Maybe I just love Small Rig stuff and I want to keep buying.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I need it.
I guess.
I'm like I need to record better videos for my gram.
Yeah.
There we have it.
Well, folks, that's your podcast episode. I think a first for us on Puck Prep. So send this to a home barista, somebody who drinks espresso at home. Love to hear your thoughts down in the comments wherever you're watching or listening to this: Spotify, YouTube, Apple. But yeah, there you have it, folks. Podcast episode on Puck Prep. Stay tuned for next week's episode. And as we always say, remember, reflect what's good.